Not so long ago, I was lucky enough to get this record a week early when I took a 3 hour road trip with my friend down to Cleveland to see one of three secret shows by Bright Eyes playing with Neva DeNova. Unfortunately, after a solid opening set by Neva DeNova, Bright Eyes came out and, well, Conor was really fucked up. He had blown out his voice to the point of barely being able to talk, much less sing, and he couldn't remember lyrics, had real guitar tech problems, and eventually, after a set cut short, sat on an amp and talked about wanting to kill himself. It was truly a depressing night, and I guess I just want to talk it out. So let's get into this new album and what it's like to watch someone you admire fall apart live on stage. Let's start with the record, 5 Dice, All Threes. Musically, the record is full of upbeat and mid-tempo songs that occasionally break out into bombastic guitars and big pounding drums. One of the lead singles, Bells and Whistles, sounds like it could be a Target ad. Aside from that though, the bouncy tunes mostly work for me. One of my favorites, Rainbow Overpass, feels like a mature version of The City Has Sex with its fuzzed punk sound that pushes the song forward with enough energy to pogo to if you felt like it. Really, that's something you could say for most of the record. It's a more mature and experienced version of a band that has been around for a while now. Gone are the days of basement tapes and lo-fi jams or of sprawling poetic stomp-alongs. Instead, we have tight production similar to that of their previous record, Down in the Weeds, that is from musicians that are focused and have plenty of experience to draw from. The biggest change might be that Conor has finally abandoned the overly compressed, tightly double-track sound of his voice that I personally was never a fan of, to return to a more naturalistic sound. A very welcome change, if you ask me. To contrast the joyous tunes, there are 2 or 3 slow piano-heavy songs, but even they have extra instrumentation or production experimentation that keeps them from being straightforward, sad piano songs. Lyrically, this record is cynical, nihilistic, and most of all, vicious. Conor seems to feel like all the warnings he sang about on previous records have come to fruition, and the people who are supposed to guide us, save us, and give us hope have betrayed us. One such target is religion, especially with songs like Hate, where Conor rails against the con men who have taken advantage of the downtrodden and led us to the special hell we have built for ourselves called the 21st century. He also seems to be grappling with getting older. This may just be me projecting. I am writing and recording this the day before my 36th birthday, so age is on my mind. But it feels like he's going through something a lot of people loosely labeled into the millennial generation are feeling. Amongst myself and my friends, there's been the sense that we wouldn't make it this far. We all seem to privately come to the same conclusion that we were all going to kick the bucket, or the world would end by the time we were 30, and for too many of us, that was true. But for those of us that are still around, we didn't really plan this far ahead, and frankly, judging by the state of things, it would have been pointless to try. It's a fucked up and idiotic world out there, and most of the time, it doesn't feel like there was anything worth saving. We are tired, and we're angry. 2 of the main ingredients for hopelessness. And this record drips with that hopelessness, and a failure to find a way to cope. Which brings us to the not-so-secret warm-up show at the Beachland Ballroom. After getting an email with a link to tickets, my close friend and I got ourselves an Airbnb. We're old and can no longer drive 3 hours, see a show, and drive back in one go. And headed down to Cleveland. As I said, Neva DeNova opened playing some stuff off their new record, Canary, and it was a solid set. The songs were great to sway in place to, and they caught and kept the audience's attention, which is no easy task when people are there for one specific act. Everything was adding up to have the potential for a special night. The Beachland holds maybe 400 people, so it'd be the smallest venue I'd ever seen Bright Eyes in. Fun fact, the only other time I've been to the Beachland Ballroom is when I went and saw Idols there, and not too long after they wrote a song about it, or at the very least had a song titled Beachland Ballroom. I think it's interesting. It was also a warm-up show, so maybe they'd play some songs they hadn't played in a while, or have some fun stage banter while they figured stuff out. It's not often you get to see such a big artist in such an intimate setting, so the crowd was tingling. Unfortunately, after a couple songs, a bucket of cold water was thrown on that excitement. From the beginning, you could tell something was up with Conor's voice. It wasn't his normal cathartic broken sound, but something much more painful sounding. Apparently, he blew it out in the 6 days of practice leading up to the shows, and the band has since canceled several dates on orders from a doctor. They actually just canceled all the shows for the rest of the year. And the more I thought about it, it's got to be terrifying to be a singer-songwriter and be in danger of losing your voice. Here's to a speedy recovery. Very unfortunate, but ultimately the right call. And if that's all that was wrong, it still would have been a pretty good show. I can relate to this, though, because of my musical past. The less people in the audience, the harder I went. And I'd been known to leave it all on the field during practice, so. Unfortunately, in what seemed like an effort to self-medicate, Conor ended up pretty drunk. As the show progressed, he stumbled through some of their biggest songs, forgetting lyrics, skipping whole sections of the set, and by the end, letting touring members of the band sing for him while he sat, head in hands, on his amp. There were at least 10 minutes that he stopped the show and spent on a distortion pedal that didn't seem to be working. He stumbled around, rambling and apologizing, and in one too-real moment, talked about killing himself. After which he had to be reprimanded by Mike Mogus for bringing it up on stage. The crowd morphed into a friend watching someone they care about lose a fight with addiction. We were watching someone who at some point in our lives gave us the strength to carry on, die on stage before our eyes. I don't think anyone left there feeling hopeful for the future. This would have been bad enough if it was a one-off occasion, but unfortunately, it seems to be happening more and more, and not just with Bright Eyes. The last time I saw Bright Eyes was at the Masonic Temple a few years back, and at that show, Conor was also almost too drunk to stand. At that show, he also had a dark, rambled banter about being in the hospital and wanting to die. He even hurt his wrist falling off the stage at one point. It was a mess. I believe that tour ended in flames, if I recall. Online, comments suggest that this is a typical Bright Eyes show. He's always been this way, they say. That's not the defense you think it is. In fact, that makes it so much worse. This pattern of addiction is not sustainable in the long term, and you can't help but wonder why it's continuing. I've seen Conor play with some of his other bands. He seems simply happier and more engaged. I've actually seen Conor 8 times now. 4 with Bright Eyes, 2 with Desaparecidos, and 2 with the Mystic Valley Band. And he was definitely the most relaxed and at ease with the latter. If this band is leading you to your worst instincts and addictions, and your addictions keep you from doing essentially what is your job, maybe you just gotta stop. But what can we do as fans? I don't know Conor Oberst. Aside from a handshake and a few pleasantries, I don't know him from Adam. As fans, are we doomed to just watch as someone important to us slowly marches to their grave? Is it the most that we can hope for that someone close to him can help and not just watch? I don't know the answer. I just know something has to change. Too many artists are melting down and cracking to the pressure. Bright Eyes and Conor are just the one I'm most familiar with, but lately we've seen a spat of folks lose it on stage. We are killing our idols in the most literal way. But I'm sure that Oasis reunion will be smooth sailing. Now I know no one from this band will ever see this. I mean, I'm averaging what? 30 views a video? But if I could talk to Conor, I'd say this. What are you doing, man? It seems like this band, it's killing you. So stop. Get some help. Just as an outside observer / longtime fan, if the choice is between you churning out a few more albums and tours where 2 or 3 shows are passable until you burn out, to borrow a phrase from another doom poet type I'm a fan of, and quitting but living longer, I'd take the latter every time. The world is better with you in it. And you're right. Those in power, and especially the ones you've championed in the past, have betrayed our whole generation. They took our hope for change and used it to profit from the status quo. But you can't let that send you down a spiral of nihilism because that only benefits the bastards. Use that betrayal to motivate you to help build a world without the people you're railing against on this and other records. You've written some amazing songs about the problems in this world and the pain it causes. You should stick around to write the anthems of the better world we are going to build together and tell the stories of how we got there. You don't want to make music anymore? Fine. Sculpt, paint, garden, write a novel, fly a kite, anything. Just stick around because the world needs someone watching and holding them to the flame. It needs you. We are all here rooting for you. Feel better. Anyway, that about covers it. What do you think? What is the responsibility of fans if their favorite artist is obviously unwell? Did you listen to this record? What'd you think? Let's talk about it in the comments, and as always, death to the algorithm. Death to the